The silk tie slipped through my fingers before I could stop myself. I hadn't meant to touch him. I hadn't meant to do anything except survive another double shift at Luminosa, the kind of exclusive restaurant where the silverware cost more than my monthly rent. My feet ached inside the cheap flats I'd worn down to nothing, and the tray in my hands felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Exhaustion had become a second skin, something I wore as constantly as the ugly black uniform that hung loose on my frame. But then he walked in. The entire restaurant seemed to inhale and hold its breath. Conversations didn't stop exactly. These people were too polished for that. But they softened, became more careful. The maitre d' practically genuflected, and our manager Marco appeared from nowhere, smoothing his hair with trembling fingers. I was refilling water glasses at table 7, trying to be invisible the way I'd learned to be. Invisible meant safe. Invisible meant I could get through my shift, collect my tips, and go home to my cramped studio apartment where the radiator clanked and the neighbors fought through paper-thin walls. He moved through the dining room like he owned it. Maybe he did. I kept my eyes down, watching his shoes instead. Black leather so polished I could see the crystal chandeliers reflected in them. Italian, probably custom-made. The kind of shoes that cost more than I'd make in 6 months. 2 men flanked him, broad-shouldered and alert, in a way that made my stomach tighten. They scanned the room constantly, hands near their jacket lapels. I'd seen men like them before, in the neighborhood where I grew up, men who smiled with their mouths but never their eyes. Marco seated them at the corner booth, the one we kept reserved even when we had a wait list stretching into next week, the one with the view of both entrances and no windows behind it. Emma, Marco's voice was sharp, urgent. You'll serve table 12. My head snapped up. But that's not my section. It is now. His fingers dug into my elbow, steering me toward the kitchen. Don't screw this up. Smile, be professional, don't ask questions, and for God's sake, don't stare. The warning in his voice made my hands shake as I gathered menus, my heart hammering against my ribs. Through the circular kitchen window, I watched the man settle into the booth. He was younger than I expected, maybe early 30s, with dark hair cut sharp enough to draw blood and a face that belonged in movies, not in real life. The kind of beautiful that felt dangerous. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my car used to, before it died completely. His white shirt was crisp, perfect, and his tie, deep burgundy silk that caught the light, was knotted with mathematical precision. I approached the table on legs that felt like water. Good evening, gentlemen. Can I start you with something to drink? My voice came out steadier than I felt. Small miracle. The 2 bodyguards didn't even look at me. Their eyes kept moving, cataloging every person, every movement in the room, but he looked up, and the world narrowed to the space between us. His eyes were dark, so dark they were almost black in the low light. They moved over my face with the kind of attention that made me feel naked, like he could see through the practiced smile and the exhaustion to every secret I'd ever kept. Whiskey. Neat. His voice was smoke and gravel, quiet in a way that made everyone lean closer to hear. The Macallan 25, if you have it. Of course we had it. We kept bottles that cost thousands of dollars for men exactly like him. Right away, sir. I turned to leave, grateful to escape that gaze, but his voice stopped me. And you? I froze. Sir? When did you last eat? The question hit me like cold water. My stomach chose that moment to growl, betraying me. I'd skipped lunch because I couldn't afford it, and breakfast had been black coffee and determination. I'm fine, thank you. You're shaking. He said it like he was commenting on the weather, but something in his tone made my skin prickle. Bring yourself something. Charge it to my table. Heat flooded my cheeks. I can't accept. It wasn't a request. The words were soft, almost gentle, but they carried weight. Final. Absolute. I nodded once, quickly, and escaped to the bar before I could do something stupid like cry. My coworker Sophia grabbed my arm as I punched in the drink order. Do you know who that is? Should I? She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. That's Dante Salvatore, the Dante Salvatore. When I didn't react, she leaned closer. her voice dropping to a whisper. His family practically runs this city. Shipping, construction, half the restaurants downtown, and other things. Things people don't talk about. My blood went cold. Mafia. Don't say that word. Sophia's eyes were wide, frightened. Just be careful, Emma. Men like that are dangerous. I delivered the drinks with hands that wanted to shake. Dante, I couldn't think of him as Mr. Salvatore after Sophia's warning, accepted his whiskey with a slight nod. His fingers brushed mine as he took the glass, and I felt that touch like electricity, like a brand. Thank you. He paused, waiting. Emma. Emma. The way he said my name felt possessive, like he was claiming it. That's a gentle name. I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. Just smiled my professional smile and retreated. The rest of the dinner service passed in a blur. I brought their food, steaks so rare they still bled, prepared by our chef who'd trained in Rome. I refilled drinks. I tried not to exist too loudly, but I felt his eyes on me constantly. Every time I crossed the dining room, every time I passed near his table. It was like standing too close to a fire. Awareness prickling across my skin, making me hyper-aware of every movement. Near the end of their meal, I approached to clear plates. Dante was leaning back in the booth, one arm stretched along the leather, perfectly relaxed. But there was nothing relaxed about the way he watched me stack dishes with practiced efficiency. Then I saw it. His tie had come slightly loose, the knot shifted to one side. I don't know what possessed me. Maybe exhaustion had finally broken something in my brain. Maybe I'd forgotten who he was for just 1 second. Maybe I was just too tired to think straight. I reached out and straightened it. My fingers touched the silk, warm from his body, smooth as water, and I adjusted the knot back to center. It took maybe 3 seconds, 3 seconds of my hands near his throat, of being close enough to smell his cologne. Something dark and expensive, cedar and smoke, and something else I couldn't name. 3 seconds of touching a man I shouldn't have touched. The table went silent. The bodyguards tensed, hands moving inside their jackets. The air itself seemed to crystallize, sharp enough to cut. I jerked back, horror flooding through me. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I... Dante caught my wrist. Not hard, but firm enough that I couldn't pull away. His fingers were warm, his grip gentle but absolutely unbreakable. He was breathing differently. I could see his chest rising and falling, faster than before. The muscle in his jaw was tight, and when he looked up at me, something burned in those dark eyes that made my heart stop. Why are you breathing like that? The words tumbled out before I could stop them. Stupid. So incredibly stupid. His thumb moved against my wrist, finding my pulse where it hammered rabbit fast. Like what? Like you're... I couldn't finish. Couldn't articulate what I was seeing. The tension in his shoulders. The way his free hand had curled into a fist on the table. The darkness spreading across his expression. Like I'm what, Emma? His voice had dropped lower, intimate despite the public setting. Say it, angry, I whispered. No, his thumb kept moving on my skin. Hypnotic, not angry. One of the bodyguards leaned in, murmuring something quick and low. Dante's eyes never left mine, but he nodded once. We need to go. He released my wrist, and I felt the absence of his touch like cold water. He stood, and I had to tilt my head back to keep eye contact. He was tall, over 6 feet easily, and this close I could see the small scar near his temple, the dangerous beauty of his face. He pulled something from his wallet and placed it on the table. Not a credit card. Cash. A clip of hundreds. More money than I'd make in a month. For the meal. And for you. His fingers brushed my cheek, so quick I might have imagined it. Be more careful, Emma. Not everyone would be as patient as I am. Then he was gone, his guards flanking him as they moved through the restaurant and out into the night, where a black SUV waited at the curb. I watched through the window as they drove away, taillights disappearing into the city's neon glow. I looked down at the money, $1,500. My hands started shaking so hard I had to sit down. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt the silk of his tie under my fingers, the warmth of his skin through the fabric. I saw the way his expression had shifted. that darkness pooling in his eyes like spilled ink, the way he'd breathed, sharp and controlled, like he was restraining something wild. I kept telling myself it meant nothing. I'd made a mistake. He'd been generous about it, and that was the end. Men like Dante Salvatore didn't think twice about waitresses who touched them without permission. We were background noise, scenery barely visible. So why did his thumb on my wrist feel branded into my skin? By the time dawn leaked through my apartment's single window, I'd convinced myself I'd never see him again. The city was huge, and his world and mine didn't overlap. Couldn't overlap. I was wrong. He came back the next night. I was in the kitchen when Marco found me, his face pale and slightly panicked. Table 12 again. Now. My stomach dropped. Maybe Sophia should... He asked for you specifically. Marco gripped my shoulders, his fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. Emma, listen to me very carefully. Whatever you did yesterday, do it again. Men like Salvatore, when they want something, they take it. But when they ask nicely, you say yes. Understand? I didn't understand anything, but I nodded. Dante sat in the same booth, flanked by the same stone-faced guards. But tonight he was on his phone, speaking rapid Italian that flowed like music and menace combined. He looked up when I approached, and something in his expression softened. Just slightly, just enough for me to notice. He ended the call mid-sentence. Emma. Not a greeting, just my name. Like he'd been testing how it felt in his mouth. You look tired. I'm fine. The lie came automatically. You're lying. He gestured to the seat across from him. Sit. I can't. I'm working. Marco won't mind. It wasn't arrogance exactly, just certainty. The kind of certainty that came from never being told no. Sit. Please. The please surprised me enough that I obeyed, sliding into the leather booth across from him. This close, I could see details I'd missed before, the faint shadows under his eyes that suggested he hadn't slept either, the small white scar on his knuckles, the way his watch caught the light. Patek Philippe, platinum. I knew because my ex-boyfriend had dragged me past the window display once, pointing out watches that cost more than houses. Are you hungry? Dante asked. I already told you. He raised one hand, and a waiter appeared instantly, not me, not Sophia, but James, our most senior server who usually handled VIP tables. The lady will have the risotto and the salmon, and bring her the tiramisu after. I really can't accept, I started, but Dante's expression stopped me. You're going to eat, Emma, because you didn't eat yesterday either, and you're running yourself into the ground. His voice was still quiet, but something sharp edged each word. How many shifts are you working? That's not your concern. Answer the question. I shouldn't have. I should have stood up, walked away, remembered every warning Sophia had given me. But something in his eyes, some genuine worry mixed with that dangerous intensity, made me answer. Doubles most days. Sometimes I pick up catering shifts on weekends. His jaw tightened. How many hours? 70, maybe 80 a week. Cristo. He breathed the word like a curse. One of his guards shifted, murmuring something low. Dante responded in Italian, sharp and dismissive, then returned his attention to me. Why? Because rent exists, and electricity, and student loans that will outlive me. I shouldn't have been so honest, but exhaustion had stripped away my filters. Because minimum wage plus tips doesn't cover a studio apartment in this city, even in the bad neighborhoods. You live alone? The question felt too personal, but I nodded. Something passed across his face, satisfaction mixed with concern. No family? Not anymore. I didn't elaborate. Didn't mention the mother who'd disappeared when I was 12, or the foster homes after that, or the aging out of the system at 18, with nothing but a garbage bag of clothes and a head full of dreams that reality had slowly crushed. The food arrived before he could ask more questions. I meant to refuse it, meant to make some excuse and leave, but the risotto smelled like heaven, and my stomach betrayed me with an audible growl. Dante's lips curved, not quite a smile, but close. Eat, Emma. I ate. And God help me, it was the best meal I'd had in months, maybe years. Each bite felt like luxury, like someone caring whether I survived or not. I tried not to look at him while I ate, but I felt his eyes on me constantly, watching, cataloging, claiming something I didn't understand. "Better?" he asked when I'd finished. "Yes, thank you." I wiped my mouth with a napkin. Linen, not paper. "But you can't keep doing this, can I?" "Mr. Salvatore." "Dante." His eyes locked on mine. "Say my name." My pulse jumped. "This isn't... We're not... I'm just a waitress." "You think I don't know what you are?" He leaned forward, and the space between us felt electric. "You're exhausted and underpaid and invisible to everyone in this room except me. You touch things carefully, like you're afraid they'll break. You apologize for existing. And yesterday, for 3 seconds, you forgot to be invisible." Heat flooded my cheeks. "I shouldn't have touched you." "No," he agreed. "You shouldn't have. Do you know what happens to people who touch me without permission?" My throat went dry. "I can imagine." "I don't think you can." He reached across the table, and I should have pulled back, but I didn't. His fingers wrapped around my wrist again, finding my pulse like he had the night before. "My men were ready to break your hand. Marco was ready to fire you. Do you know why neither of those things happened?" I shook my head, not trusting my voice. "Because for the first time in 10 years, someone touched me like I was human." His thumb traced circles on my skin, maddeningly gentle. "Not like I was dangerous, not like I was powerful, just human. Like you were straightening a tie on someone who mattered. I didn't think... I know. That's what made it perfect." He released me slowly, reluctantly. "I want to see you again. You're seeing me now. Not like this. Not with you working, running yourself to death between tables. I want to take you to dinner. Somewhere you can sit, eat, breathe." Panic fluttered in my chest. "I don't think that's a good idea." "Why not?" "Because you're dangerous," I thought. "Because Sophia's warnings replay in my head. Because men like you don't date women like me. They use them and discard them and move on to the next shiny thing. Because we're from different worlds," I said instead. So I'm not stupid enough to think this ends well." Something flashed in his eyes. Anger? Maybe, or hurt. "You think I'd hurt you?" "I think you could." The honesty surprised us both. "I think you could destroy me without even trying, and you'd probably forget about it a week later." He was quiet for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he pulled a card from his jacket, heavy stock, embossed, a phone number, nothing else. "When you're ready to let me prove you wrong, call." He stood, and his guards immediately flanked him. "And Emma? Stop working yourself to death. It bothers me. You don't even know me." He paused, looking back over his shoulder. "Not yet. But I will." Then he was gone again, leaving me alone in the booth with an empty plate, a business card that felt like it was burning a hole in my pocket, and the certainty that my life had just tilted off its axis. I lasted 3 days. 3 days of double shifts and aching feet, and going home to my empty apartment, where the silence pressed down like physical weight. 3 days of catching myself thinking about dark eyes and gentle touches, and the way he'd said my name like it mattered. 3 days of telling myself I was being smart, careful, protecting myself from something that would inevitably hurt. On the 4th day, my landlord knocked on my door with an eviction notice. Rent had gone up, again, and I was already behind. He gave me 2 weeks. I stared at the paper in my hands, at the numbers that might as well have been hieroglyphics for all the sense they made, and felt something inside me crack. I'd been so careful. I'd worked so hard, and it still wasn't enough. It was never enough. My phone sat on the counter where I'd left it, and Dante's card sat next to it. I picked up both before I could change my mind. He answered on the first ring. "Emma." Just my name, but I could hear everything in it. Satisfaction, relief, possession. "Hi." My voice shook. "Is your offer still open? For dinner? Where are you?" No hesitation, no playing games. "Home, but I don't think you should..." "Address, now." I gave it to him, some distant part of my brain screaming that this was a mistake, that I was inviting danger into my life with both hands. 20 minutes, he said. "And Emma? Pack a bag." What? Why? Because you're not staying in that place anymore. His voice had gone hard, cold. I had it checked. The wiring is a fire hazard. There's black mold in the bathroom, and your neighbors have arrest records that would make you sick. You're done there. You had my apartment investigated? Anger sparked through the fear. You have no right. I have every right to protect what's mine. The words hung in the air between us. I'm not yours, I whispered. Not yet. He said it with absolute certainty. 20 minutes, Emma. Be ready. He hung up. I stood in my apartment, my cramped, moldy, dangerous apartment that I'd fought so hard to keep, and felt the last of my resistance crumble. I packed a bag. The SUV that pulled up was exactly what I expected. Black, enormous, windows tinted so dark they looked like mirrors. What I didn't expect was Dante himself stepping out, not waiting for his driver to open the door. He wore different clothes tonight, dark jeans that probably cost more than my security deposit, a black sweater that clung to shoulders I tried not to notice, and a leather jacket that made him look like he'd stepped out of some dangerous dream. His hair was slightly disheveled, like he'd been running his hands through it, and those dark eyes fixed on me the moment I appeared in the doorway. That's all you're bringing? He looked at my single duffel bag. Everything I owned that mattered could fit in one bag, with something like anger crossing his face. I travel light. I tried to keep my voice steady as I locked the door behind me, wondering if I'd ever unlock it again. He took the bag from my hands before I could protest, his fingers brushing mine. That electric shock again, that awareness that made my skin tight. One of his guards, the taller one with the scar through his eyebrow, opened the back door, and Dante's hand found the small of my back, guiding me inside. The interior smelled like leather, and that cologne I couldn't forget. Soft lighting, seats that felt like butter, enough space that 3 people could sit comfortably. Dante slid in beside me, close enough that our thighs touched, and I felt that heat even through layers of denim. Where are we going? I asked as the SUV pulled away from the curb, away from the only home I'd had in this city. Somewhere safe. He was watching me with that unnerving intensity again, like he was trying to read my thoughts. You're shaking. I'm scared. Honesty seemed easier than lying, though I wasn't sure why. Of me? Of this. Of what I'm doing. I looked out the window, watching the familiar streets blur past. I don't even know you. Then ask. Whatever you want to know, I'll tell you. I turned back to face him. Will you? Really? Because men like you don't exactly come with warning labels. His lips curved. That almost smile again. Men like me. Dangerous men. Powerful men. Men who have other people investigated and make restaurant managers grovel and carry enough cash to tip a waitress $1,500 without blinking. You kept the money. It wasn't a question. I needed it. Pride made me add, I'm going to pay you back. No. The word was flat, absolute. That money was a gift. You don't repay gifts, Emma. I don't take charity. It's not charity. It's me taking care of what's mine. There it was again. That possessive phrase that should have terrified me but instead sent something warm and dangerous spiraling through my chest. You keep saying that. I'm not yours. You called me. He shifted closer, and suddenly there was no space between us at all. His hand came up to cup my face, thumb tracing my cheekbone with devastating gentleness. You got scared and alone, and the first person you thought to call was me. What does that tell you? That I'm stupid. That you're smart enough to know when you need help. And brave enough to ask for it. His eyes searched mine. I meant what I said. Ask me anything. Okay. I took a breath, steadying myself. Are you actually Mafia? He didn't flinch, didn't look away. My family has business interests that aren't always strictly legal. Shipping, imports, construction, waste management. We operate in spaces where the law is flexible. That's a politician's answer. You want the truth? Yes. The Salvatore family has connections to organized crime. Have for 3 generations. Does that scare you? Yes. Good. You should be scared. But not of me. His thumb kept moving on my skin, hypnotic. I would never hurt you, Emma. Never. Anyone who tried would answer to me and trust me when I say that's not something anyone wants. Why? The question burst out before I could stop it. Why me? You could have anyone. Women who are beautiful, educated, from your world. Why a broke waitress who can't even afford her rent? His expression shifted, something raw and almost vulnerable flickering across his face. You want to know what I see when I look at you? I nodded, not trusting my voice. I see someone who works herself to exhaustion because she refuses to give up. Someone who touches carefully, because she knows what it's like when things break. Someone who straightened my tie like I was just a man, not a monster. His hand slid into my hair, fingers tangling gently, and I see someone who's been invisible for too long. I want to make you visible, Emma. I want to give you everything you've been denied. That sounds like a fairy tale. Maybe it is. He leaned closer, his breath warm against my lips. Or maybe it's just a man who knows what he wants when he sees it. And what do you want? You. Simple. Devastating. All of you. Your time, your attention, your trust. I want you safe and fed and sleeping in a bed that doesn't have broken springs. I want you to stop being scared all the time. He stopped himself, jaw tightening. Christo, I want things I have no right to want. The SUV slowed, and I realized we'd left the city center behind. We were in the hills now, where houses hid behind gates and walls, where old money met new power. The vehicle turned through iron gates that opened automatically, following a curved driveway lined with manicured hedges. The house, mansion really, rose before us like something from a movie, stone and glass, modern but elegant, lit from within so it glowed against the night sky. Security cameras tracked our approach, and I saw more guards stationed near the entrance. This is your home? My voice came out smaller than I intended. One of them. This is the most secure. He helped me out of the SUV, his hand warm and steady on mine. You'll stay here, where I know you're safe. Dante, I can't just... Yes, you can. He kept his fingers laced with mine as he led me up marble steps, past guards who nodded respectfully. And you will. Consider it payment for all those extra shifts you won't be working anymore. I still need to work. I have bills. Taken care of. I stopped walking, forcing him to turn and face me. What do you mean, taken care of? Your student loans, your credit card debt, your back rent, and the deposit on your apartment, so you can break the lease properly, all of it. He said it like it was nothing, like erasing years of debt was as simple as breathing. You're starting fresh, Emma, clean slate. Horror and something dangerously close to relief warred in my chest. You can't just... That's too much. That's insane. It's necessary. His free hand cupped my face again, tilting it up so I had to meet his eyes. You don't understand yet, but you will. When I decide something is mine, I take care of it. I protect it. Nothing and no one touches what belongs to me. I'm not a possession. No, he agreed. You're so much more than that. He kissed me then, and my world narrowed to the heat of his mouth on mine, the way his hand tightened in my hair, the solid warmth of his body pressed against me. It wasn't gentle. There was too much hunger in it for gentleness. But it wasn't rough either. It was claiming, possessive. A kiss that said mine in every stroke of his tongue, every pull of his lips. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. Come inside. He murmured against my mouth. Let me show you your room. Your room. Not a guest room. Not temporary. Your room like this was already home. I should have run. Should have called a cab. Gone back to my moldy apartment. Continued my slow march toward burnout and poverty. Should have remembered every warning, every reason this was dangerous. Instead, I let him lead me inside. The house was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. All clean lines and expensive artwork. Floors so polished I could see my reflection. A woman in her 50s appeared, elegant in simple black clothing, her silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. Mrs. Chen, this is Emma. She'll be staying with us. Dante's voice held authority but also warmth. Please prepare the blue suite and have her things brought up. And Emma... He turned to me. Mrs. Chen manages the household. Anything you need, ask her. Mrs. Chen smiled, her eyes kind. Welcome, Miss Emma. Are you hungry? I can prepare something. No, thank you. Then I'll just show you to your room. She moved toward the curved staircase, and I followed, glancing back at Dante. He stood at the base of the stairs, hands in his pockets, watching me with an expression I couldn't read. I have some calls to make. Get settled. We'll talk in the morning. The blue suite was bigger than my entire apartment. A massive bed with what looked like real silk sheets, a sitting area with a fireplace. Windows that overlooked the city lights spread below like fallen stars, an attached bathroom with a tub big enough to swim in and a shower that could fit 4 people. Mr. Salvatore had us stock some basic toiletries, Mrs. Chen said, opening cabinets to show expensive bottles of shampoo, lotion, perfume. But if you need specific brands, just let me know. There are robes in the closet, and I'll have fresh towels brought up. This is too much, I whispered. She paused at the door, her expression softening. He's a good man, Miss Emma. Hard, yes. Dangerous, certainly. But good where it counts. You're safe here. I promise you that. Then she was gone, and I was alone in a room that cost more than everything I'd ever owned combined. I sank onto the bed. God, it was soft, and tried to process what I'd done. I'd walked away from my life, such as it was. I'd let a man I barely knew pay off my debts and install me in his house like some kind of kept woman. I'd kissed him like I was starving for it. Maybe I was. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Sleep well, Emma. You're safe now. I stared at those words until they blurred, wondering if safe was what I really wanted, or if what I actually craved was the danger he represented, the intoxicating possibility of being someone's entire focus, someone's priority, someone's obsession. I fell asleep on top of the silk sheets, still fully clothed, and dreamed of dark eyes and gentle hands, and a voice that called me his. Morning came with sunlight streaming through windows I'd forgotten to cover, and the smell of coffee drifting up from somewhere below. For a confused moment, I didn't remember where I was. Then it all crashed back. Dante, the house, the kiss that had branded itself into my memory. I showered in that obscenely large bathroom, using products that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. The hot water felt like luxury, endless and perfect. I'd gotten used to 3-minute showers in my apartment, racing against the ancient water heater. Here, I could have stayed under the spray for an hour. When I emerged, wrapped in a robe so soft it felt like a cloud, I found clothes laid out on the bed. Jeans in exactly my size, a cream-colored sweater that looked expensive but comfortable, underwear still in packages, even socks. My stomach tightened. He'd known my sizes, had me investigated thoroughly enough to know what I wore. I should have been furious. Instead, I felt something warm and dangerous unfurl in my chest. Someone had paid attention. Someone had cared enough to make sure I had what I needed. I dressed quickly and followed the smell of coffee downstairs. The kitchen was massive, all marble countertops and professional-grade appliances. Mrs. Chen stood at the stove, and Dante sat at the island, a tablet in front of him, reading something that made his jaw tight. He wore a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up, and I tried not to stare at his forearms, at the strength visible in every line. He looked up when I entered, and his expression softened immediately. Buongiorno. Did you sleep? Eventually. I slid onto the stool across from him, accepting the coffee Mrs. Chen placed in front of me. Thank you for the clothes. I'll have more delivered today. You'll need a proper wardrobe. Dante, don't argue with me about this, Emma. His voice was gentle but firm. Let me do this. Please. The please caught me off guard again. Men with his power didn't usually ask. Mrs. Chen placed a plate in front of me, fresh fruit, pastries that looked homemade, scrambled eggs with herbs I couldn't identify. My stomach growled despite my nerves. Eat, Dante said, his eyes tracking my every movement. Then we need to talk. The food was delicious, but I barely tasted it. That talk hung over us like a storm cloud, full of unspoken weight. When I'd finished, Dante dismissed Mrs. Chen with a nod. She left quietly, closing the kitchen door behind her. Suddenly we were alone, and the space felt smaller, more intimate. I need to tell you something. He set down his tablet, giving me his full attention, about why I'm so protective of you. Possessive, you mean? A ghost of a smile. That too. But there's a reason. He was quiet for a moment, his fingers drumming on the marble. 3 years ago, my sister Sophia was kidnapped. My breath caught. Dante. She was 22. Beautiful, innocent, didn't understand the dangers of being a Salvatore. She went out with friends, and someone took her. His voice had gone flat, emotionless in a way that was worse than anger. They held her for 2 weeks, demanded ransom, which we paid immediately. But they didn't give her back right away. They wanted to prove a point, show that they could hurt us. Horror crawled up my spine. She's alive. Physically, she's fine, but she's not the same. She lives in our family compound in Sicily now, surrounded by guards too scared to leave. She trusted someone she shouldn't have, and it destroyed her. His hand curled into a fist on the counter. When I saw you at the restaurant, exhausted and vulnerable, working yourself to death in that uniform. When you touched me without fear, without calculation. He looked up, and the raw pain in his eyes made my chest ache. I saw Sophia before everything happened. Gentle and trusting and so easy to break, and I thought, not again. I won't let the world destroy another good thing. So this is about your sister? The words came out sharper than I intended. I'm what? Some kind of replacement? No. He stood, moving around the island so fast I didn't have time to react. His hands framed my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. You're not a replacement for anything. You're Emma, stubborn and brave and working yourself to death because you refuse to give up. You're the woman who straightened my tie and asked why I was breathing differently. You're mine because I decided you were, not because of Sophia. That's insane. Yes. He didn't deny it. But it's the truth. The moment you touched me, something in me recognized you, claimed you, and I've never been good at letting go of what's mine. People aren't possessions, Dante. I know. His thumb traced my lower lip, and I shivered. But you're more than a person to me now. You're... Cristo. I don't even have words for it. You're the thing I think about when I should be thinking about business. You're the reason I can't sleep. His phone rang, shattering the moment. He cursed in Italian, low and vicious, but answered it. What? I watched his expression change, going from frustrated to cold in a heartbeat. He spoke rapidly in Italian, his free hand clenching and unclenching. Whatever was happening, it wasn't good. I have to go. He ended the call, already moving. There's a situation at one of the warehouses. I'll be back by tonight. Okay. I didn't know what else to say. He paused at the doorway, looking back at me. Don't leave the house. Please, Emma. It's not safe right now. Why? What's happening? Nothing you need to worry about. But the tension in his shoulders told a different story. Just stay here. Marco and Luca will be stationed inside. Anything you need, ask them. Then he was gone, and I heard the SUV roar to life, tires crunching on the driveway. The day stretched endlessly. I explored the house, carefully, like I was trespassing, finding room after room of minimalist luxury, a library with floor-to-ceiling shelves, a gym that looked like it belonged in a professional facility, a music room with a grand piano so beautiful it made my throat tight. I sat at the piano bench, running my fingers over the keys without pressing down. My mother had played, before she left. She'd tried to teach me, but there'd never been money for lessons, never been space or time. Do you play? I jumped, spinning around. One of Dante's guards, Marco, I thought, stood in the doorway. He was shorter than his partner, stockier, with kind eyes that didn't match the gun I could see under his jacket. No. I mean, not really. My mother tried to teach me, but I shrugged. It's been a long time. The boss wouldn't mind if you practiced. He smiled slightly. He'd probably like it. This room doesn't get used enough. Why does he have it if he doesn't use it? His mother played, before she passed. Marco's expression sobered. He keeps it for her memory. Another piece of Dante clicked into place. The protective instinct. the need to shield what he cared about. He'd lost his mother, nearly lost his sister. No wonder he held on so tightly to things he claimed as his. "Marco?" I turned on the bench to face him. "What kind of situation is Dante handling? At the warehouse?" His expression shuddered. "Nothing for you to worry about, Miss Emma. Everyone keeps saying that, but if I'm living here, if I'm whatever I am to him, don't I deserve to know what I'm involved in?" He studied me for a long moment. "You really want to know?" "Yes." "Someone's been stealing from us, skimming product, selling it independently. The boss is dealing with it." He said it matter-of-factly, like dealing with it could mean anything from firing someone to something much darker, and that requires him personally? "The boss handles betrayal personally, always." Marco's voice held respect and maybe a little fear. "It's why people don't cross him. When you betray Dante Salvatore, you answer to Dante Salvatore. No intermediaries, no mercy." A chill ran down my spine. Has he killed people?" Marco looked at me steadily. "I think you already know the answer to that, Miss Emma. The question is whether you can accept it." Could I? Could I care about a man who hurt people, who killed when he deemed it necessary, a man whose protection came with blood on his hands? I didn't have an answer. Dante came home after dark, and I knew immediately something was wrong. His shirt was rumpled. There was blood on his knuckles. Not his own, I thought, and his eyes held a darkness that made my stomach clench. He stopped when he saw me curled up on the living room sofa, a book I hadn't been able to focus on abandoned beside me. "You should be asleep." His voice was rough, exhausted. "I was waiting for you." I stood, crossing to him before I could second-guess myself. "You're hurt." "It's nothing." "Let me see." I took his hand gently, examining the split knuckles. "You need to clean this." "Emma, bathroom, now." I surprised us both with the command. "Unless you want it to get infected." Something flickered in his eyes, surprise, maybe amusement. But he followed me upstairs to his room. His bathroom was as obscenely luxurious as mine. All black marble and chrome. I found a first aid kit under the sink and made him sit on the edge of the massive tub. Then I cleaned his knuckles with antiseptic, trying not to think about how he'd gotten these injuries, what he'd done tonight. "You don't have to do this," he said quietly. "I know." I dabbed at the cuts, my hands steady despite my racing heart. "But I want to." "Why?" "Because you took care of me. Let me return the favor." I wrapped gauze around his knuckles, securing it carefully. "There. Try not to punch anyone for a few days." He caught my wrist before I could pull away, tugging me closer until I stood between his knees. "You're not afraid of me. Should I be?" "Most people are. I'm not most people." I met his eyes. "And you've never given me a reason to fear you." "Emma." My name on his lips sounded like a prayer and a curse combined. "You have no idea what you do to me." "Then tell me." Instead of answering, he pulled me down to kiss him. It was different from the first kiss. Hungrier, more desperate. Like he was trying to erase whatever he'd done tonight with the taste of my mouth. I kissed him back, my hands sliding into his hair, feeling him shudder against me. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. "Stay with me tonight," he murmured against my lips. "Just sleep. I need you close." I should have said no. Should have maintained some boundaries, some distance. Should have protected my heart from the inevitable destruction. Instead, I nodded. We lay together on his enormous bed, fully clothed, his arm wrapped around me like I might disappear. His breathing eventually evened out, but I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering what I'd gotten myself into. Wondering if I'd ever want to leave. 2 weeks passed in a blur of surreal domesticity. Dante left early most mornings, returning late, always with that same tension in his shoulders that only eased when he saw me. We fell into a rhythm, breakfast together when he had time, quiet dinners where he asked about my day, and I pretended mine was normal. I read in his library, practiced tentative scales on his mother's piano, took long baths in that ridiculous tub. And every night, I slept in his bed, wrapped in his arms, both of us pretending this was sustainable, but the real world had a way of intruding. It started with a phone call I wasn't supposed to hear. I'd been passing Dante's office, a room I'd been avoiding, respecting his privacy, when I heard him shouting in Italian. The rage in his voice stopped me cold. I pressed my ear to the door, heart hammering. I don't care what he says. He stole from me. He threatened what's mine, and he'll pay for both. A pause, then lower, more dangerous. No, not negotiable. He touched her building, tried to burn her out before I could get her somewhere safe. For that alone, he dies. My blood turned to ice. Someone had tried to burn down my apartment building. Because of me. Because of whatever this was between Dante and me. The door opened suddenly, and I stumbled back. Dante stood there, phone still in hand, his expression shifting from fury to concern in a heartbeat. "How much did you hear?" "Enough." My voice shook. "Someone tried to kill me?" "No." He pulled me into the office, closing the door. "Someone tried to send me a message. You were never in real danger. I had people watching that building from the moment you gave me your address, but the intent was there, and that's enough." "Who? Why?" "A rival family, the Costas. They've been pushing into our territory for months, and they see you as a weakness." His hands cupped my face, forcing me to look at him. "But they're wrong. You're not my weakness. You're my line in the sand, and they just crossed it. Dante, this is insane. I can't be the reason people die." "You're not the reason. Their greed is the reason. Their disrespect is the reason." His eyes burned into mine. "This was always going to happen, Emma. With or without you. The Costas want war, and they're going to get it. But I'll be damned if they use you to hurt me. So what happens now? Now I end it." He said it simply, like he was discussing dinner plans. "Permanently. Fear and something else, something dark and possessive that scared me, twisted in my gut." "You mean kill them?" "Yes." No hesitation, no apology, just brutal honesty. "And if I asked you not to?" The question came out smaller than I intended. "Then I'd tell you that some things are non-negotiable." His thumb traced my cheekbone. "Your safety is one of them. My family's honor is another. The Costas made their choice when they targeted you. Now they face the consequences. This isn't the life I wanted, I know." Something that might have been regret flickered across his face. "If I could give you normal, I would. But I can't. This is what I am, Emma. This is my world, brutal and bloody and dangerous. The only question is whether you can accept it. Could I? Could I love a man, and God help me I was falling in love with him, who killed without remorse, who saw violence as a solution, who operated outside every law I'd been raised to respect? I don't know," I whispered. "Then figure it out." He pressed his forehead to mine. "Because I'm not letting you go, even if you hate me for it, even if you're scared, even if this destroys you, I won't let you go. You're mine, Emma. That's not changing." The possessiveness should have terrified me. Instead, it made me feel safe in a way I'd never experienced, like I belonged somewhere, to someone. "Finally, I'm not saying I accept this," I said carefully, "but I'm not leaving either. Not yet." Relief flooded his expression. "That's enough. For now." He kissed me then, and I tasted desperation in it, need and fear, and something that felt dangerously close to love. The war came 3 days later. I woke to gunfire. Dante was already moving, rolling out of bed and grabbing the gun he kept in the nightstand, a gun I'd been pretending not to notice for 2 weeks. He was on his phone before I could speak, barking orders in rapid Italian. "Stay here." He was pulling on clothes with one hand, still talking. "Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone except me or Mrs. Chen. Understand?" "What's happening?" "The Costas are making their move. Attacking the house was stupider than I expected, but it's also more desperate." He checked his gun with practiced efficiency that made my stomach clench. "This ends tonight. Dante..." He crossed to me, kissing me hard and fast. "I love you. I should have said it before, but I'm saying it now. I love you, Emma, and I'm going to make sure you're safe. No matter what it costs." Then he was gone, and I heard the lock click from the outside. I sat frozen on the bed, his words echoing in my head. "I love you," said like a promise and a threat combined. More gunfire erupted outside. shouting, breaking glass. I crawled to the window, peering through the curtains. The grounds were chaos, dark figures moving between the hedges, muzzle flashes lighting up the night. Dante's men, recognizable by their coordinated movements, were engaging with intruders. And in the middle of it all, I saw Dante, calm, controlled, every shot precise. He moved, like violence was a dance he'd perfected. I should have been horrified. Instead, I felt something fierce and primal watching him defend what was his, watching him defend me. The battle lasted maybe 20 minutes, though it felt like hours. Eventually, the gunfire stopped. Voices called out in Italian. I heard sirens in the distance, but they seemed to fade away rather than approach. Someone had called them off, I realized. This neighborhood, these people. They answered to Dante, not the law. The lock clicked. I spun around as the door opened. Dante stood there, blood splattered across his shirt. Not his, I thought, prayed. His eyes wild until they found me. Then everything in him seemed to settle. It's over. He crossed to me in 3 strides, pulling me against him so hard I could barely breathe. It's over. You're safe. Cristo. You're safe. I felt him shaking, this powerful, dangerous man trembling against me like I was the one who'd kept him standing. Are you hurt? I pulled back enough to check him over, my hands running over his chest, his arms, searching for wounds. I'm fine. They're not. He cupped my face, thumbs wiping away tears I hadn't realized I was crying. The Costas are finished. The survivors will leave the city by morning, or they'll join the dead. No one threatens you again. No one. You killed for me. I'd kill the entire city for you. He said it like a vow. I'd burn this world down if it meant keeping you safe. The scary part was, I believed him. The scarier part was how right it felt. I love you too, I whispered. I know I shouldn't. I know it's crazy and probably self-destructive, and definitely not what a sane person would do. But I love you, Dante. God help me, I do. His kiss tasted like relief and possession, and promises I knew he'd keep. Say it again. I love you. Again. I love you. I pulled him closer, ignoring the blood, the chaos, the insanity of it all. I love you, and I'm staying. Not because I'm scared to leave, but because I want to be here, with you. Emma. My name sounded like a prayer. You have no idea what you're agreeing to. Then spend the rest of our lives showing me. 6 months later, I stood in Dante's mother's music room, our music room now, my hands moving over piano keys with growing confidence. The lessons he'd hired for me were paying off, and I could almost play the piece I'd been practicing without mistakes, almost. I felt him before I heard him, that awareness that had become second nature. His arms wrapped around me from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder. Beautiful, he murmured. Both the music and the woman playing it. I leaned back into him, smiling. Flatterer. Truth-teller. He pressed a kiss to my temple. How was your day? Good. I finished enrolling for classes. Start next semester. The university he'd encouraged me to attend. The education he'd offered to fund. Another gift I'd initially refused before accepting. Business management, like we discussed. So you can help run the legitimate side of things. Exactly. I turned on the bench to face him. Someone needs to make sure you're not completely terrifying in board meetings. His smile was pure mischief, but I like being terrifying. I know you do. I traced the scar on his knuckles, long healed from that first night. How was your day? Better now? He pulled me to my feet, leading me toward the windows where the city sprawled below us. I have something for you. Dante, you just bought me a car last week. This is different. He pulled a small box from his pocket, and my heart stopped. I know we said we'd take things slow. I know you're still adjusting to this life, but I also know that every day I wake up next to you is a gift I don't deserve, and I want to spend the rest of my life earning the right to keep you. He opened the box. The ring inside was beautiful. A sapphire surrounded by diamonds, elegant and understated and perfect. Marry me, Emma. Not because I'm demanding it, not because you're mine, though you are, but because I'm yours too. Because you made me human again, because you touch me like I matter. And I want that for the rest of my life. Tears blurred my vision. You really want to marry a broke waitress? I want to marry the woman who straightened my tie and asked why I was breathing differently, the woman who's brave enough to love a monster, the woman who plays my mother's piano and makes this house feel like a home. His voice roughened. Say yes, Emma. Please. I thought about the girl I'd been 6 months ago. Exhausted, invisible, working herself to death for a life that barely qualified as living. I thought about the woman I'd become. Loved, protected, learning to be visible, learning to take up space in the world. I thought about Dante, who'd claimed me as his from the moment I touched him, who'd killed for me, who'd given me everything and asked for so little in return. Yes. I laughed through my tears. Yes, I'll marry you. He slid the ring onto my finger, then kissed me like I was air and he'd been drowning. When we finally broke apart, he pressed his forehead to mine. Mine, he whispered. Yours, I agreed. But you're mine too. Always have been. From the moment you touched me, we stood there as the sun set over the city. Two broken people who'd found something whole in each other. It wasn't a fairy tale. There was too much blood for that, too much darkness. But it was real, and it was ours. And that was enough. More than enough. Outside, the city glittered like fallen stars, full of danger and possibility. But here, in Dante's arms, with his ring on my finger and his heart beating against mine, I was home. Finally, impossibly, wonderfully home, and I knew, with absolute certainty, that this was exactly where I belonged.